We've referred to Faber a couple times in part 1, just as the old man in the park. He referenced him twice, I believe, but now we actually get to meet him in person. Yesterday I had y'all read through the section where he is on his way traveling to Faber's house. But what happens to him? Let's start off like this. How does he travel from his house to Faber's?
The underground tunnel train.
Right, he takes the subway, the underground train network, the subway essentially. What's he doing on the train?
Reading.
He's reading the whole time, which is highly illegal, remember? If you're caught reading, you can be taken away and your house can be burned and all your books can be burned. And if we do just like the woman did in the part 1, you could also commit suicide with that as well. So, we have him doing something very highly illegal in public in front of a bunch of people. It makes everyone else around him very nervous. Now, can he focus while he is reading? No. Why? Sorry? Not just because everyone's screaming. They do make some noise around him talking that does annoy him. But there's especially one thing that happens, and there's a commercial playing. Does anyone remember the name for the commercial? What company?
Starts with a D, doesn't it?
It does start with a D. Denham's. Second part of that? You're looking down to try to find it real quick. Denham's Dentrifice. It sounds crazy, but what that actually is a toothpaste commercial. Y'all probably wouldn't have connected those ideas, but Dentrifice is basically like a dentistry, like a toothpaste, essentially. And it has a jingle to it. Isn't that the most annoying thing? Whenever you have a commercial with a jingle to it, because you can't help but think about it, right? What if I said ba-da-ba-ba? How do you finish that? Ba, right? Because you know it, right? Call 683 7000, right? We all know those things because they get deep into our psyche. You can't help but know them, and they're really stinking annoying after a while, right? That's the same thing's happening to Montag here. He's trying to focus. He's trying to read this book. In fact, it says he's trying to memorize the book, and we'll figure out which book that is in just a few moments. Can anyone go ahead and guess what book it is? It's the Bible, yes. Because, notice the one question that Montag asks Faber over the phone before he leaves his house is, how many Bibles are there in North America? And Faber freaks out, of course, and says, none! And he hangs up, right? But that's what we're picking up today, is that he is walking up to his house now and actually knocking on the door. Page 76 is where we are at. Here we go. I just stopped halfway down the page. Let's go and pick up there. Just like yesterday, I'm going to read through part of this. We're going to discuss a couple things as we are going. How Faber reacts to Montag and why he reacts the way he does. That's going to be the important part of what we're going to be discussing. I'm going to have y'all read by yourselves again today after a couple minutes. All right. So picking up page 76. Who is it? Montag out here. What do you want? Let me in. I haven't done anything. I'm alone, damn it. You swear it? I swear. The front door opened slowly. Faber peered out, looking very old in the light and very fragile and very much afraid. The old man looked as if he had not been out of the house in years. He and the white plaster walls inside were much the same. There was white in the flesh of his mouth, and his cheeks and his hair was white, and his eyes had faded with white in the vague blueness there. Then his eyes touched on the book under Montag's arm, and he did not look so old anymore, and not quite as fragile. Slowly, his fear went. So notice that the description of him, he looks pale, he looks like he's withered, he looks really old. It looks like he hasn't been outside in forever, just like the walls in his house. But when he sees the book in Montag's arms, he wakes up a little bit more. Some life comes back into him. I'm sorry, one has to be careful. He looked at the book under Montag's arm and could not stop. So it's true. Montag stepped inside. The door shut. Sit down. Faber backed up as if he feared the book might vanish if he took his eyes from it. Behind him, the door to a bedroom stood open, and in that room a litter of machinery and steel tools were strewn upon a desktop. Montag had only a glimpse before Faber, seeing Montag's attention diverted, turned quickly and shut the bedroom door, and stood holding the knob with a trembling hand. His gaze returned unsteadily to Montag, who was now seated with the book in his lap. "The book. Where did you—" "I stole it." Faber for the first time raised his eyes and looked directly into Montag's face. "You're brave." "No," said Montag. My wife's dying. A friend of mine's already dead. Someone who may have been a friend was burnt less than 24 hours ago. You're the only one I knew might help me. To see. Remember, what is Montag searching for? He's searching for a teacher, another person, you could say. He's searching for a teacher, right? Because when he first picked up a book, it said he opened it in the middle and tried to read. He's not going to get a whole lot out of that. He's not going to understand it super well. So he needs a teacher, someone to help him focus, someone to really understand what's in these books, what's in this book in particular, the Bible that he has. Why is that book important? That's what we're going to be kind of diving into today. Faber's hands itched on his knees. "May I?" "Sorry." Montag gave him the book. "It's been a long time. I'm not a religious man, but it's been a long time." Faber turned the pages, stopping here and there to read. "It's as good as I remember. Lord, how they've changed it in our parlors these days. Christ is one of the family now. I often wonder if God recognizes his own son, the way we've dressed him up, or is it dressed him down? Remember the family, or the family on the TV walls that Mildred watches? That's what Jesus is now, apparently. He's no longer he's no longer the savior of humanity in the Bible. He's now just a member on a TV cast. That's all he is. See how they've dressed him down right there. He's a regular peppermint stick now, all sugar, crystal, and saccharine, when he isn't making veiled references to certain commercial products that every worshiper absolutely needs. Faber sniffed the book. "Do you know that books smell like nutmeg or some spice from a foreign land? I loved to smell them when I was a boy. Lord, there were a lot of lovely books once before we let them go." Faber turned the pages. "Mr. Montag, you're looking at a coward. I saw the way things were going a long time back. I said nothing. I'm one of the innocents who could have spoken up and out when no one would listen to the guilty, but I did not speak and thus became guilty myself. And when finally they set the structure to burn the books using the firemen, I grunted a few times and subsided, for there were no others grunting or yelling with me by then. Now it's too late." Faber closed the Bible. "Well, suppose you tell me why you came here." So, Faber here is agreeing that he is guilty of not speaking out. See, this is a concept that's actually strewn throughout a lot of different ideas here, but this is a big concept here. If you choose to not say anything or to not make a decision, that's still making a decision. If you, let's say, decide to not vote, I'm not going to vote, all right? That's great. That's your decision. That means you're guilty of whatever happens because you didn't choose to make a decision. You cannot go without life without choosing a side, essentially, is what he's saying here. And the side he chose, well, he might have seen, as it said right here, I was innocent. I was one of the innocents who could have spoken up, but I didn't. I was innocent of hating books, but I still am guilty because I chose not to say anything. That's a big structural thing here, and actually has a lot of biblical connotations in it as well, even though Ray Bradbury was not himself a Christian. Nobody listens anymore. I can't talk to the walls because they're yelling at me. I can't talk to my wife. She listens to the walls. I just want someone to hear what I have to say, and maybe if I talk long enough, it'll make sense. And I want you to teach me to understand what I read. Faber examined Montag's thin, blue-jowled face. "How did you get shaken up? What knocked the torch out of your hands?" "I don't know. We have everything we need to be happy, but we aren't happy. Something's missing. I looked around. The only thing I positively knew was gone was the only thing I positively knew was gone was the books I'd burned in 10 or 12 years. So I thought books might help. We all have a void we're trying to fill. We fill up with a whole bunch of things to make us happy, but we're still going to be empty inside. There has to be something to fill that void. And he says maybe it's in these books. Specifically, maybe I can find it in this book. "You're a hopeless romantic," said Faber. "It would be funny if it were not serious. It's not books you need. It's some of the things that once were in books. The same things could be in the parlor families today. The same infinite detail and awareness could be projected through the radios and televisors, but are not. No, it's not books at all you're looking for. Take it where you can find it. In old phonograph records, old motion pictures, and in old friends. Look for it in nature and look for it in yourself. Books were only one type of receptacle where we stored a lot of things we were afraid we might forget. There was nothing magical in them at all. The magic is only in what books say, how they stitch the patches of the universe together into one garment for us. Of course, you couldn't know this. Of course, you still can't understand what I mean when I say all this. You are intuitively right. That's what counts. 3 things are missing. He's going to detail 3 things that are missing in this life, in today's life. And we can even see a lot of parallels in our own lives, especially in this. What he says there is rather important. It's not the books themselves that are important. It's what they say. It's what they tell us. It's what they teach us. None of these books over here are important. If they're all perfectly translated correctly into a movie, it would work just as well. They said the right things. Now, they don't do that a lot of times. As we'll see with the movie for Fahrenheit 451, they have a couple ideas, but they didn't actually translate it correctly. So these are the 3 things that are missing that are needed. Number 1, do you know why books such as this are so important? Because they have quality. And what does the word quality mean? What does the word quality mean? Let's ask that question. Sorry?
Texture.
Texture? Okay. No, you're just reading a little bit more, all right? You can't copy him. What does quality mean to you?
Something that you like.
Something that you like is what quality is. All right? Anyone else?
The better something is.
So, the better something is.
So like if it's falling apart, it's like less quality.
Okay. All right. So if something is not able to withstand time, then it has less quality. All right? So something can stand up to time. Okay, good. Anything else? The amount of something?
Like, not really like a measurement, but like, I like this thing more than I like this thing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Okay. So it's like the quality of enjoyment, essentially, right? The more you enjoy something, the better quality it has. Okay, good. Good ideas there. And I especially agree with personally, I agree with does it stand the test of time idea. If it can stand up by itself for long periods of time, then it has good quality. That's what he's saying is missing, is that quality is missing now. And all of these, hey, you can throw away almost all the movies we've done in the past 20 years, and you probably wouldn't be missing out on too much. Not really. Because there's not a whole lot of great quality out there. A lot of quantity, lots of great action-packed movies, but not a lot of quality. So let's look at what he says about quality for himself, not just for ourselves over here. To me, it means texture. The book has pores. It has features. This book can go under the microscope. You'd find life under the glass, streaming past in infinite profusion. The more pores, the more truthfully recorded details of life per square inch you can get on a sheet of paper, the more literary you are. That's my definition anyway. Telling detail, fresh detail. The good writers touch life often. The mediocre ones run a quick hand over her. The bad ones rape her and leave her for the flies. That's what he's saying here, that a good book, something with good quality, has texture to it. The closer you look into it, the more you can look into life. This is why it's really important that they have the Bible here, because the Bible, even just historically, is something that people can study for ages and ages and ages, one line even, just to study for their entire life and get deeper and deeper into it. It touches life very greatly, as it says here. It touches life often. So it connects to us on a very human level. Mediocre ones, like almost every other book, touch life every once in a while. A good story makes you think, oh yeah, I can connect that to my life. I can connect that to my life a little bit. Yeah. Then the bad stories, the ones that are just weak and are horrible, trashy fiction, things like that, just as it says right here, they rape her and leave her for the flies. They barely even mention it. They don't connect to life at all. That's what he's saying. You need texture. You need something with great detail that can touch life. That's the first one. That's number one. So now, do you see why books are hated and feared? They show the pores in the face of life. The comfortable people want only wax moon faces, poreless, hairless, expressionless. We're living in a time when flowers are trying to live on flowers, and instead of growing on good rain and black loam. That's really black dirt. Even fireworks, for all their prettiness, come from the chemistry of the earth. Yet somehow we think we can grow feeding on flowers and fireworks without complementing the cycle back to reality. Do you know the legend of Hercules and Aeneas, the giant wrestler, whose strength was incredible so long as he stood firmly on the earth? But when he was held rootless in midair by Hercules, he perished easily. If there isn't something in that legend for us today, in this city, in our time, then I am completely insane. Well, there we have the first thing I said we needed: quality, texture of information. That's true. In this society, they're not really real by any means. We know a lot of fake people, don't we, in our lives? Don't point fingers. Good. All right, don't point any fingers. I can point a couple fingers, though. I'm joking. So, notice here that that's what he's talking about, is that they're like flowers who are trying to grow on top of other flowers. There's no dirt to really grow in. There's nothing good in their lives. You need to go back to reality, back to the dirt to actually grow correctly. That's what he's saying here. And because we're not grounded in reality, we are weak. And the second, leisure. What is leisure? It's a kind of an older term for some of y'all, at least, but what is leisure? Don't try to read ahead. I see some of y'all trying to get ahead a little bit. Enjoyment? That could be something about leisure there. It does have an element of enjoyment, yes.
Like kind of holding something down.
Holding something down?
Yeah.
Leisure? Not necessarily. I like that you're thinking, though, but it's not quite right, I don't think. Anyone else? What does leisure mean? We awake? You mind poking her? Anyone else? What's leisure?
Like time off.
There's a good element to that as well, yes. So what leisure is, ladies and gents, is an ability and a time set aside from the busyness of life. It's a place and a time that you can actually have to find enjoyment, to relax from life. Leisure is time away from the busyness of life. That's what you need. And isn't that what people need to read a good book? Hey, if you're ever on the beach, that's why people love reading on the beach. It's a time set aside from the business of life. You can sit there and just enjoy your time. People need that in order to really read and understand. Oh, but we've plenty of off hours. Off hours, yes. But time to think? If you're not driving 100 miles an hour at a clip where you can't think of anything else but the danger, then you're playing some game or sitting in some room where you can't argue with the four-wall televisor. Why? The televisor is real. It is immediate. It has dimension. It tells you what to think and blasts it in. It must be right. It seems so right. It rushes you on so quickly to its own conclusions, your mind hasn't time to protest. What nonsense. Only the family is people. I beg pardon? Now, my wife says books aren't real. Thank God for that. You can shut them. Say, hold on a moment. You play God to it. At any point, y'all can shut this book and not read. at any moment. You have complete control over this. If you do that, you're making a decision, of course. But you have control over this, at least this book. Maybe not what the ideas in it do to you, but you do have control over the book itself. What you don't have control over is what the world shouts at you. That's why Facebook is so dangerous, I think. I don't like social media personally. I try not to get on it very much. That's why I don't have a Twitter, I don't have a Snapchat, I don't have an Instagram or anything like that, because I already have so many things yelling at me. You have so many things yelling at you, just like they're having. And you can't shut those things off all the time. That's what he's saying here. But who has ever torn himself from the claw that encloses you when you drop a seed in a TV parlor? It grows you in any shape it wishes. It is an environment as real as the world. It becomes and is the truth. Books can be beaten down with reason. But with all my knowledge and skepticism, I've never been able to argue with a 100-piece symphony orchestra, full color, 3 dimensions, and being in and part of those incredible parlors. And as you see, my parlor is nothing but 4 plaster walls, and here, he held out 2 small rubber plugs for my ears when I ride the subway jets. Denhams dentrifice, they toil not, neither do they spin, said Montag, eyes shut. Where do we go from here? Would books help us? So he is actually connecting this to what's happened to him earlier. He would have loved some earplugs, wouldn't he? So that he wouldn't have to hear all the people talking and shouting and then all the sound of the commercial playing repeatedly above him. He would have loved something like that to shut out the world. That's what you need to do sometimes. Shut out everything around you and go read a book. Have some time to actually have some leisure. That's why, since we're getting just the Bible here, whenever people do read the Bible, they usually read it separately. They go off by themselves to read it so they can actually have leisure time. So ladies and gents, from here on out, we have 81 through 80. Oh, we're actually going to do 88. You're right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue just one more page for you. Only if the third necessary thing could be given us. Number 1, as I said, quality of information. Number 2, leisure to digest it. And number 3, the right to carry out actions based on what we learn from the interaction of the first 2. And I hardly think a very old man and a fireman turned sour could do much this late in the game. I can get books. So going through our 3 things you need. You need an actual time. You need good quality information, quality books, something with good ideas, something that touches life greatly. You need time to digest and understand that reading. That's why I try to break these things down really easily for you. You need time to understand it. And then third, you need to be able to act on what you've learned. Those are the 3 things you need that life does not have anymore. People will try to shout you down and think you agree with them all the time. That's what he's saying that you need. You need those 3 things. You're running a risk. That's the good part of dying. When you've nothing to lose, you run any risk you want. There, you've said an interesting thing, laughed Faber, without having read it. Are things like that in books? But it came off the top of my mind. All the better. You didn't fancy it up for me or anyone, even yourself. Montag leaned forward. This afternoon, I thought that if it turned out that books were worthwhile, we might get a press and print some extra copies. We? You and I. Oh, no, Faber sat up. But let me tell you my plan. Or if you insist on telling me, I must ask you to leave. So remember, Faber said, what did Faber call himself as soon as Montag walked in? He said, I am a what? A coward, right? We are seeing that cowardice right here in action with him saying, I'll talk about these books. I'll talk about what you need in these books. Oh, but I won't do anything about it. He's making that choice again not to do anything. And that is just making him more guilty. But aren't you interested? Not if you start talking the sort of talk that might get me burnt for my trouble. The only way I could possibly listen to you would be if somehow the fireman structure itself could be burnt. Now, if you suggest that we print extra books and arrange to have them hidden in firemen's houses all over the country so that seeds of suspicion would be sown among those arsonists, bravo, I'd say. Plant the books, turn on an alarm, and see the fireman's house burned. Is that what you mean? Faber raised his brows and looked at Montag as if he were seeing a new man. I was joking. If you thought it would be a plan worth trying, I'd have to take your word. It would help. You can't guarantee things like that. After all, when we had all those books we needed, we still insisted on finding the highest cliff to jump off of. But we do need a breather. We do need knowledge. And perhaps in 1,000 years we might pick smaller cliffs to jump off. The books are to remind us what asses and fools we are. They're Caesar's Praetorian Guard, whispering as the parade roars down the avenue. Remember, Caesar, thou art mortal. Most of us can't rush around, talk to everyone, know all the cities of the world. We haven't time, money, or that many friends. The things you're looking for, Montag, are in the world, but the only way the average chap will ever see 99% of them is in a book. Don't ask for guarantees, and don't look to be saved in any one thing, person, machine, or library. Do your own bit of saving, and if you drown, at least die knowing you are headed for shore. So he's saying that books, the reason why we need books here is because they remind us of life. They check us a lot. And actually, I can connect that to the Bible as well. You all know me, I can talk a lot about that. But it's there to remind us we're human. We're human. We're human. We need something else. We need something else. That something else is something that I'm not legally allowed to proselytize. But right here we have him saying, books are needed, yes, but we can't do anything right now. It's too late for us. Faber got up and began to pace the room. Well, asked Montag, you're absolutely serious. Absolutely. It's an insidious plan, if I do say so myself. Faber glanced nervously at his bedroom door. To see the firehouses burn across the land, destroyed as hotbeds of treason. Ooh, the salamander devours his tail. Oh, God. I have a list of firemen's residences everywhere with some sort of underground. We can't trust people. That's the dirty part. You and I, and who else will set the fires? Aren't there professors like yourself, former writers, historians, linguists, dead or ancient? The older the better. They'll go unnoticed. You know dozens. Admit it. So I'm going to stop there and let you read continuing on from here. You're going to end on page 88. Please go ahead and flip over to page 88 for me. You'll notice in the very, very beginning of page 88 is the stopping point. Go ahead and stop right there for me. All right. Yeah, I'll sign notes for people to go use the restroom. Notice here the important sections of this, right? What is he arguing for? Montag's idea is to get books and then plant those books in firemen's houses so that all the firemen's houses end up getting burned. So the salamander, the patch for the symbol for the firemen, ends up eating itself, right? End up getting destroyed by their own organization. That's the argument. That's what he wants to do. They're going to start talking a little bit about their plans and their ideas for that. So go ahead and take some time now to go ahead and continue reading. You know what? Have y'all stop on page 89. Halfway down page 89, he actually ends up leaving his house. Montag leaves Faber's house. So stop on the halfway part of 89. You'll see it as a good stopping point as well. All right? Go ahead and stop there, but go ahead and continue reading for now. I'm going to give you about, it's 9:18 now, so I'm going to give y'all right at around 25 minutes or so to get this read. Okay? Go ahead and start.